All right. My name is Dean Sahutsky, and with me I have Brian Bellinger. And Brian works, he's a partner in a company called Autostructure, and their website is right below us. You can see it, www.autostructure.io. And what they do, they are a data center foundation streamline automation service. And on their website, and if we bring it up over here, I'll bring it up on the...
And dog grooming service.
And dog grooming, all right, yeah. They do everything. So here's our website, and if we look at it at www.autostructure.io, we see they give a brief description of what they do. Autostructure provides data center automation strategies, solutions, and results. Puppet Enterprise is our foundation and exclusive configuration management tool. We are helping companies speed up their deployment pipeline and transition to cloud computing. Find out how we can optimize, simplify, and reduce cost of your operations. Now, as you can see, Puppet Enterprise, they mentioned that is the foundation of their tool, their business model, and so, if you need information, we're not going to go into explaining what Puppet is. I'll leave that to the listeners. But what Brian's going to do, he wanted to demonstrate some of what you guys do. What you have. What did you want to demonstrate for us today? Just give me a brief.
Well, today I'm going to do a Puppet install, right? A Puppet Enterprise install. That is going to be what you need to do for all this. Our follow-up will soon be what you're going to do. So, okay, I got Puppet running. So what we're hoping to do is take our customers, our potential customers, show them a few simple things they could do that will immediately turn around business value for them.
Okay, all right, very good. So we've got the application shared, and Brian's going to go through the steps right now. So take it away, Brian.
All right. So first thing we're going to need you to do, very simple, is download Puppet. That does need to happen through the Puppet.com website. So here it is, Puppet.com. Go ahead and click on the product. Click on Puppet Enterprise. Try it for free. This is completely free for up to 10 nodes, which is more than what most people need to get going and learn what it's all about. So let's click on Try it free. You'll put in your email address and click Download. And right here, you're going to get a set of links that you can use to download for whatever platform you want. It needs to be on one of these three Linux platforms, Red Hat family, Ubuntu, or SUSE. Any of these three families will do. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get it started. So, as you can see, I have a CentOS, running CentOS 7. We've already downloaded it to our directory. It's tarball, so let's bust that open.
Now, there's a lot of documentation on how to do this as well, right? But I've always found that it makes it a lot easier. This is why I do my own videos as well, because I'll muddle through stuff, and I'll also look at other documentation and other videos and put my own together. And it also helps me understand it better too when I do these.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this will get more people engaged in it, and I'm hoping to show that it's fairly easy, not intimidating at all. It's from the open source community. Back in the old days, it was quite a large setup, but we think it's very intuitive now and very quick.
Sure. Right. Now, I have actually downloaded Puppet. I downloaded their learning VM. And I did go through the installation. And I actually took that and I uploaded it to AWS. So it made it, there are a number of reasons I did that, because it made it easier for me to have access to it from wherever I was. At the VM, when you run it on VMware, if you're running in an area where you can't have you can only use like a NATed address in VMware. For people who are familiar with VMware, they'll know what I'm talking about. Getting to the administrative page and the documentation can be somewhat difficult. So the Learning VM, it provides all information, and if you want to take the time to go through and upload it into somewhere like AWS so you can have access to it, that's just a piece of information I thought I'd share with the crowd while Brian's getting his stuff installed.
Yep. The other option you have two, in both Azure and AWS. Puppet Enterprise has their own image.
Ah, well, there you go.
And you can go ahead, just bring that into your your ecosystem, start it up, and you're ready to go right there and then.
Very cool.
This one I'm going to go ahead. Just a bash shell, Puppet Enterprise installer, and we're going to do the guided install for our listeners. So I'm assuming most are new to this product. So let me ahead and go. It's going to start it up. And it's going to go ahead and start up a GUI on port 3000 that we'll be able to interact with.
Now, some of the prerequisite stuff you're going to need to do, if you're running a firewall, right, you're going to want to either open up that port to make it accessible, or if you're in a secure environment where you're not worried about that kind of security, you can disable your firewall. Correct?
Correct. Port 3000 is to be open, but like you said, you have both options available to you depending on how locked down your environment is. So for us, this is a virtual machine. We just went ahead and turned off the firewall. And with that, it's going to be a HTTPS master 3000. Let's go ahead and I'm using the IP address that I already have loaded. Let me go ahead and ring it up. Now, first thing you're going to notice is it runs on HTTPS. There's a self-signed cert over on the Puppet installer.
Okay.
We're just going to go ahead and continue. And let's get started. We're going to install on the server master.autostructure.io. Puppet alias. We're going to install. Now, let me pull it back here. Puppet takes advantage of the Puppet database, which contains all of the reports that are run for up to as much as you want. The default's 30 days. It also shows you what the current status is of your data center. It all goes in Puppet DB. It's Postgres. Right now, you can see I'm going to install it on the same server. That is that preferred way, even in a high availability. So it's just, if people are asking, well, how do we do a split? You're actually recommended not to do a split unless you're running tens of thousands of nodes. So even though this is database on the same server as both the console and the Puppet server, that's what you're mostly going to want. My admin server, I'm just going to use password for today.
Okay.
Just keep it simple.
That's great information, because I've actually gone through this exercise and I couldn't get it to work. But you guys do this on a regular basis, so I'm going to find this very useful myself, because I actually want to go through this exercise as well.
Let me go ahead and hit continue. Now it's just making sure everything is up to spec. And everything is, except we don't have a very large opt drive, but you would usually want 100 gigabytes on it once you go real production. Like I said, this is a demo for those who are becoming new to this. So otherwise, everything checks out green, and we're going to go ahead and deploy it. So at this point, there's not much to do for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we can't pause. So maybe while we're waiting, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Autostructure does.
So we're under the umbrella of DevOps, which is very generalized, especially some of the listeners will say, well, DevOps means so much. So we're going to drive down a little bit. We do data center configuration automation, right? So Puppet is the foundation of that. Puppet's going to give you all the configuration management we believe you need for your data center, and it'll automate it all. And on top of all of it, it's going to enforce it. So you're going to make sure that your data center or your infrastructure is consistent and will not drift. If anything deviates from your policies, whether they be security policies or NTP policies, whatever you want to enforce, Puppet's not only going to make sure that it's installed correctly the first time, but if for any reason there's an alteration, it's going to change it back, and it's going to alert operations that there has been something that's been changed. The idea here is behind it is drift, right? Anyone who's familiar with infrastructure real is somebody's going to log in at some time to some place to try to work around something, and they're going to change the configuration. Now, I'm not sure I got this quote quite right. It's from the ITIL community, but basically it was 85% of the problems that you're going to see in your data center are related to somebody going in and configuring something without the knowledge. It's usually not malicious. 99% of the times it's not malicious.
Right.
It's just somebody's trying to solve a problem and it became expedient to do something.
Right.
The problem is that at some point in the future, things are going to break and people are going to be on the phone all night trying to work things out.
Exactly, and we've all run into that. I'm an admin by trade, and I'm also a parent. Okay, so we know what it's like. When you have something, you have it all working, like your television, right? And you leave the room, and all of a sudden it's not working because your child went and pushed a button, and now you spend the next 4 or 5 hours trying to undo what they did, and that's a potential nightmare. Now you translate that into a production environment where you have your systems are all up and running, and somebody makes a change. I mean, this is why change control is so absolutely important in any environment. You absolutely have to know what people are doing to your environment. And I understand that when you have a critical situation where you have systems down and you have to make a quick change, and if nobody else is aware of that, even we've done, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but we know what the problem is. We still go through a change control process to make sure that there's a record of that change happening. But like you mentioned, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes people do things, especially if you have a large environment. So this is where this tool comes in handy. Puppet comes in handy for this for controlling. So if you do make a change, you can roll yourself back to where you were, right? Even if it's broken, and then apply the fix properly so it's recorded and people know where the change was made.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It'll do one of two things. You can roll back to a good state,
right?
Or a lot of your listeners will be familiar with this, is the puppet versus cattle model.
Sure.
So the idea here is if you have something that's been running for a while and it stops working, to put it lightly, is a piece of cattle. So in the old days, you'd have everybody on the phone calls late at night, petting your pet, telling it, nice things, bringing it back to life, what have you. The cattle model is if you have a server that's gone bad, you take it out back and shoot it.
Right,
because you need to get prod, and
right.
No one wants to be up all night. It's costly.
Right.
Even if you are sadistic and you don't care about that, it's costly. So you're going to get your machines up and running. You can figure out and diagnose what the problem is, or you may figure out that the problem isn't worth doing because it could be a million different things, and then you go ahead and you just bring a machine back up. So. Anyway, well,
this technology makes it so much easier. I mean, having Puppet around, so you have a pre-configured, you can have like an AWS instance sitting out there, right?
Right.
And it can be a base configuration of your environment. All along you've been keeping these Puppet snapshots of your environment as this instance has been growing, all right? So you can actually take yourself back to where that original VM, spin that up, deploy it, apply the last working model of your environment through Puppet, and you're pretty much back to where you were, correct?
That's mostly correct. We actually avoid intentionally the word snapshot.
Okay.
And I'll explain why that is. Snapshot assumes that you have these old VMs sitting around that were at a good state at some point in time, and you bring them back to life. A problem is and let me give you an example of one of our real clients. They have terabytes of old VMs laying around, right?
Okay.
In theory, it's so they could be audited and bring them back to life. But the reality is that's just not what happens. They just keep them in storage because there's some policy that says it has to. They spend, 6 digits a year keeping them in cold storage. And if they said they needed to fix something, they couldn't. They would have to pet it back to life, so to speak.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so what Puppet's going to do? Puppet's going to take, we use the term vanilla, which is probably not that's our technical term.
Okay.
So we're going to take Red Hat or CentOS or Windows.
All right.
And you're going to get a fresh machine out of the box. And that's very important because if you're on Amazon or you're in Azure or you have your own data center, right? One of our paradigms is that we are data center agnostic. So give you a real life example. We have a customer they have to do everything internally, but they want to move. It's a federal customer. They want to move to Azure and or AWS. So one of the questions is okay, we're going to do all this work in Puppet, and then we get AWS, we do it all over again? The answer is no. What we do is we build everything from base up. So you give me a Red Hat, so it's a standard Red Hat image or CentOS or whatever flavor you use, and we run our Puppet against it. It's going to build it from vanilla to the end state every time. We do not want halvesies. We do not want things that are half configured. We want you to give us vanilla. We're going to build it. If there's a problem, we'll diagnose. We'll fix it. So the next vanilla build. So we want. So I guess I'm repeating myself. Fresh to full every time.
Okay.
And that's all auditable, right? Because everything is in source control in Puppet. Everything is recorded in Puppet. So you go in and make a manual change, or you have something that's old you take off the shelf. It's unauditable. You don't know what's going on or where it came from.
All right. Well, that makes a lot more sense, because then you can have a cleaner, fresh install of your last working model. So I get what you're saying. Excellent. So where are we at now?
Everything broke.
Oh, well, good. No, this is real world stuff here we're presenting. I know that.
So, long story short is I ran the Puppet install, which has worked fantastic for me multiple times in the past.
Until we start recording, right?
As soon as we record, everything breaks.
Right, sure.
All right, so I guess we can go on pause right now and figure out the...
All right, well, that's what I'm going to do. We'll come back, and we will figure out what's going on. Okay, so we got it working, and thank you, Brian. So now we can continue on with our demo. Now there were actually three things that we had to look at. What the reason it was failing on that particular error had to do with host name.
That's right. So I cheated. I threw a host name master out there, and then I gave it. In the installer, it's master Autostructure IO. It was bad all around. Okay, and I'll explain what that means. It needed a full, qualified domain name, not just a host name, right? So I changed it to a proper host name on the server. It is now master Autostructure IO on that server, and when I installed it, I gave it the same FQDN. The reason for that is that the Puppet server is going to create a client cert for itself. It's its own certificate master. And it does these for security reasons. So when it starts talking to itself to do its own installation, and I'll skip the details there, it would start off as master Autostructure IO, but when it started talking to itself, since itself was actually master.local domain, which is what the VM comes off right out of the box, nothing was able to communicate. It says, I don't know what this is. It needed to talk to master.autostructure.io. So we fixed that, and we put it in there, and we were good to go.
All right. So, and the other thing, once we fixed that problem, what you ran into, we ran into another error, and it's kind of a common error. Now, we didn't take any screenshots of it, but it's kind of a common error that's you probably find when you're actually running in a local VM, and it was because of a lack of memory.
That's right. So first time it was clean, but what you're going to see a lot is, first time you do this, you may want to start in a VM. You'll give it 2 gigabytes or so, which is pretty typical. Puppet Enterprise tends to be very memory hungry, very memory resource intensive. The trade-off for that is it's very fast, right? It does a lot of caching locally. But even if you're going to be running it in a little test environment against 10 nodes, I would recommend the minimum 4 gigs of memory. I have given it a full 6 gigs just to cover bases, but that's what we went ahead and did, and it's all green.
And the other thing that I noticed that I did, because I've gone through this exercise as well, it's an important piece of information that you point out about the fully qualified domain name, because I tried doing an install and I was kind of running the same thing, and I kind of just said, well, I'm not going to deal with this now because I had other things to do. And it's good that I'm going through this exercise because I understand this. But what I found is that when I was going through the exercise trying to fix it, I didn't necessarily have to uninstall Puppet and try to do a reinstall. I could just continue, just launch the installer again, and it would just continue. It wouldn't necessarily continue. It would just start the installation over. It didn't come back and say, hey, you need to install this first.
No. So the idea behind there that is one of the strengths I find out of the Puppet language versus some of the other competitors is the term called idempotent or idempotent. And what it basically means is that, in layman's terms, every time you run Puppet or the Puppet manifest against your node, you're going to get the same state, or it'll convert it from a shifted state or drifted state back to the state. It's a declarative language, right? That's what I like about Puppet. It does. You don't give it a list of instructions. Say, do this, now do this, now do this other thing over here. You say, Puppet, this is what I want my server to be, and make sure it's that way. So going back to your original point is, well, how can I stop halfway through? It's because Puppet's declarative. Puppet says, this is the state. So it starts doing its Puppet thing. It got to a point, it crashed or stopped or whatever, non-Puppet related. When you run Puppet again, you don't have to worry about the order per se. It's just going to say, okay, this is what is declared and true. Well, this is what's declared and missing or false. Okay. Let me stick it back there. Ordering as we know it is out. It's one of the headaches that Puppet takes away off your shoulders.
Excellent. Sure. And that makes things a lot easier if you're installing a lot of these things at one time. So anyway, okay, now we've got it installed. And where do we go from here? Easiest thing I'm going to, show for now, and I think would be where we'll end up. I'm going to go to the Puppet console once again. We don't have a certain place, so we're going to go ahead and continue. Or not. What am I doing wrong? Oh, it's still trying to hit 3,000. Let's fix that. That's okay. That's okay. This is a learning hospital, okay? Right. This is real-time diagnosis. I do this every day and I get paid money to do it. So yeah, it should be good. I have no idea why it would in a million years. Well, let's do a little real-time diagnostic. Go back to the console. I mean, it's done. The Puppet installer's done. Okay. I don't know if I did something silly on my Etsy host, but I don't see how that could happen. It's just mapping. Okay, so that's your Mac. Okay, I see what you're doing there. So I should be going to port 443 to get to the console. So the website. That looks like a cert error. Well, you're always going to have...
It says master.autostructure.io.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know why it's redirecting the port from what should be 443 Puppet console to back to the installer, which isn't even running anymore. So incidentally, that what you're hearing there is Paul Talbot. He's one of the partners with Autostructure as well, and he's kind of eavesdropping on the conversation for just such an emergency. So go ahead. I would have no idea how this could even happen with 3,000 isn't even open anymore. Well, what we can do, we can pause here again and kind of backtrack and recollect and get it up and running. And then once we have it running, we'll do what we did before. We'll come back and we'll kind of explain what we had to do to fix it, and then go from there. All right? Sounds good. All right. All right, we're back, and I'm getting a lot of light fluctuation over there. I'm going to try and... Yeah, well, let's, hey, why don't you reach over and shut that light off and see what happens? This is going to get very romantic here. I'll do it. I don't know why it's doing that. There. Does that look okay? Because aren't you supposed to have usually like super bright lights where you're blinded? You know what it could be? You're wearing a white shirt. I wore my Rocket Penis shirt today, which I didn't even think about till I got here. Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that, people who are watching this obviously must realize that we are wearing different clothes. So, no, we did not go change for a new scene or anything. We're not that. That's not what this one's about. We actually had to go back to the drawing board to kind of resolve some issues that we're having. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to do another installation. And we actually have a working version installed as well. So we're going to start that. And while he's doing that, I'm going to figure out the lighting issue that we're having right now. So. Boom. Take it. Oh, hang on. Not boom. There we go. Okay, take it away.
All right. So we're going to start from where we left off. Let's Puppet Enterprise Installer. It's going to start up the daemon on port 3000, and we'll be able to go ahead with it. So here we go. We're going to proceed with the guided install. Once you've done this a few times, you'll go to text mode, which is a little bit easier. So here it is. It's yumming things down from the Puppet server.
Right. Now we've gone through this exercise a couple of times already when we prior, right, in the previous scenes.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Sweet. All right. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Let's get started. All right. You remember our cliffhanger from last week?
Right.
I just threw a FQDN in there, and that was stupid because Puppet needs to resolve itself. It's actually a check it does.
Right.
So our FQDN is puppet.autostructure.io, as you can see up above, and everything's resolving now, so we won't have that problem anymore.
Okay.
Here we go. To Monolith's install, which I think I said last time, you typically, unless you have some kind of super scaling issue, you're going to put everything on a single server, and you're going to send your what's called your compile masters on other servers to help you scale across your organization. It makes things a lot faster.
Okay.
I'm going to put my super secret password in here. I'm going to do it again.
Your super secret password.
Yeah, it wasn't secret enough apparently. Let's go, guys. All right, Puppet Autostructure IO, fantastic. Its alias can be Puppet, and let's go ahead and continue. Everything cleared, and we're going to go ahead and deploy it. This is where it gets real exciting. You'll see a rotating circle that will go for about 15 minutes. You can always look at your logs. Everything looks good.
Okay.
But I don't have any background music or any recipes to share, so I'm not sure we want to just hang out here and watch this.
Well, what we can do is we can come back to it. What I'll do is we'll just stop right now and then resume when it's up and running. So we'll be right back.
Boom. So here we are. Get my mouse over it. There we go. As you see, we have a successful Puppet install. We're logging in on port 443.
Okay.
We use the default admin and, of course, super secret password. And we're going to log in. Nothing crazy. This is the console. You'll notice that our server has been added, right? So the Puppet actually checks itself, which is nice. And there's a lot of detail here, but I think we have to talk about another time. Otherwise, we'll run over.
Oh.
My point is that I wanted to show you how to get a Puppet server up and then soon build on top of it, because this is not exactly cool. We want to get some cool stuff, but if you can't do this, you can't do the cool stuff. So that's where we're at.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Well, great. So we're going to wrap this one up for now. We thought about doing something else, but adding to it. But, this thing's been running for about a half an hour. And I figure, Brian, I think all you wanted to really do was show how to install Puppet and get it up and running, at least get initial install, and then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, I wanted to get the foundation out there for anybody to use, anybody to understand, to get it going. So, obviously, our big goal is to actually show some practical value. You have a master, what can you do with it? Not much yet, but there's actually a ton of stuff you can do with it, most of which I think any data center, any sysadmin, any manager of a data center will find useful. So that's where we're going to be focusing soon.
All right. Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks a lot, man. Till next time. Enjoy.
Thank you.